So for this edition of the Student Research Spotlight, I'm speaking with Isam Maaz, a second-year PsyD student, and Siba Alzohaili, a fourth-year PsyD student, about how they got started in their research and presented independent work at conferences. So in terms of a first question, I think I'm going to start off with how did each of you first get involved in research, and how did you end up finding research together and in collaboration?
I can go first, I guess. Um, yeah, I think, well, I'll say in general, I've been involved in like various research projects over the course of my academic career, starting and even in high school up until now. But I would say maybe this is a common thread that people come to a PsyD because they're not that big on research, though it definitely wasn't something I was necessarily looking for, but I kind of knew that it needed. I was like, well, I also needed to kind of be well-rounded and like we're going to conferences anyway. So yeah, I was kind of looking for opportunities, but also I was like, research isn't really for me. So how do I get into it? And as professors say often, it's like you can turn any paper into a poster and present it. And they said that so often that I eventually was like, yeah, I could just do that. So I think, yeah, I took one of the papers for one of my classes and I was like, oh, I could make this a poster. And at the time, my Isam and I were talking about research, and you were curious as well. And I was like, well, I'm doing this. Like, it's not that hard. Well, I say that because Stephanie was helping me like every step of the way. So I had this unearned confidence. And I was like, well, we could do it together. And it was actually really fun because like, yeah, I wrote the paper myself, but the poster wasn't like 100% my paper. We were able to like, yeah, like some brought like a different perspective. And I hadn't really done that before in terms of like revisiting a paper. So that was interesting and being able to like build on that. Um, yeah, so I think that's where it started. And then like other stuff like came, but I guess that's like where it first began.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. Isam, what about you?
Yeah, so I was a first year at the time, when me and Siba collaborated, and I was talking to her, and I was like nervous because I am a older student, have done my undergrad like years ago, and then coming back into grad school, and talking to her about like I don't know how to navigate this research component part of
Mhm.
the program. And so she helped me and she guided me and we did this thing together. And then from there, I had a class actually where our class did a research together.
Mhm.
So that was interesting. And then from there, I just took some papers that like Siba mentioned and professor saying, oh, you can take those and, turn them into a research. And I actually took actually recently starting another research team with Dr. Franks, taking part of my dissertation and then taking a different angle to it and making it my dissertation is qualitative and making it into a quantitative research topic with a different lens. So it's
Cool.
not that scary. I thought it was a lot scarier than it was, but it didn't turn out to be that bad. Yeah.
Okay, definitely understandable. And I kind of wanted to follow up on what you both were saying. Um, and a follow-up question that I had was, what was it like collaborating with each other on a research project?
Well, Suba's easy to work with, and
Thank you.
I just followed her lead. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same to you, I guess. And it
Yeah.
was fun. Like, it was fun because, like I said, like I've been part of research projects, but I had never like I've never been like in charge of one. Not gonna say like I spearheaded anything. Like we were working together, obviously, but it was, but it was more like usually you're on a team with a professor and you're kind of like assigned tasks, and it's hard to even. So especially if it's a bigger team, like sometimes you're like, I don't even really get what we're studying because I have this very small piece of it. So it was the first time that I felt like more ownership over it. And so that was really fun because it was like exciting to collaborate because like we both were able to bounce ideas off of each other and there was no one telling us like, oh, we have to do this or we have to do that. Like, and the conference that we ended up submitting to, like their criteria were pretty broad. So it was like we could just, yeah, go where both of our interests were. And again, like, I was able to take kind of a different bent based on like what Isam was bringing in and think about things in a different perspective. So yeah, I enjoyed that part of it.
So it definitely sounds like from both of your perspectives, it was easy to collaborate with each other and kind of coordinate things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what were some of the biggest challenges or uncertainties you both faced when getting started in research?
Um, I- it was the process, honestly, how to take a paper and turn it into a poster. And then like Siba had previous experience with it. I didn't, but Stephanie is a great help. I mean, asking the guidance is there, the help is there if you seek it, basically. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that too, like yeah, like the logistics of it. And it is like kind of one of those things like once you start, it becomes a lot easier. Like
Mhm.
because you're like, oh, it's not that big a deal. But it was more like I thought that there was some kind of really grand requirement for applying to conferences. And then it turns out like, no, you can just submit anywhere all the time. And like, yeah, different places will have different requirements, but like for the most part, you can just go with what you want. So I think that was like the biggest challenge of like figuring out because after we submitted that one, I started doing posters with other people or like different presentations. And so that became challenging too because one, figuring out the requirements for different conferences and then two, like the bigger the conference got, like the imposter syndrome kicks in a little bit. But up until like you start and then you're like, oh wait, actually like I do know what I'm talking about and I have expertise that the people here can benefit from. And, everyone here got their start the same way that I did. So, but it's like that you get that feeling right up until you actually do your presentation or your symposium or your poster or whatever it is.
That's very true. I share that difficulty. I thought that was the imposter syndrome. It's like, wow, I'm not an expert in the field. How am I going to give a presentation on a topic that I'm still a student? But yeah.
So it sounds like you both had a strong interest in research and collaboration, and we're able to tap into the myriad of resources that we have at MSP in terms of research. You both have mentioned on several occasions Stephanie and the librarians and the
Yep.
incredible work that they
Paper.
do in supporting the students on a day-to-day basis, but also in terms of research. And I think that's something that a lot of students who are involved in research may not know is that we have all these incredible resources that we can tap into in order to kind of get a research project launched, or if you're feeling stuck and getting help. And it sounds like you both were afraid to ask for that help.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds about right.
And so, how did early research experiences lead to presenting your own independent work at conferences?
I guess like I said, I've been part of projects before, so I think that actually maybe why it was like a little intimidating at first because like I said, the projects that I was a part of were like bigger. And so and I guess like at the same time I was on Dr. Balagi's research team and so like collaboration was a little bit different there. But um yeah, it just gave me a sense of like what kind of questions to ask and like how to narrow your focus. I think that was like the
Mhm.
most helpful thing that I took from past research. Like some of it was like put me off of research, but like the helpful stuff was like, you don't need to go too broad. Like especially it's like, oh, oh, I'm not an expert in the field. Like no one's expecting a poster to be like the be all end all, but it's asking a very specific question, it's answering a specific question, and narrowing the focus like that, I think was the biggest thing that I found was helpful.
Mhm.
Um, I found, well, the poster presentation that me and Siba did together, that was my first exposure. And then my plan is for next year to do more conferences. But this year I found that um, I'm on a research team for a narrative review. I didn't know that a narrative review could be a publication. So taking from another student's piggybacking off of her dissertation, I got, um, you know, she approached me and said, "Would you like to do this with me?" So now we're taking it's kind of like a mini literature review and getting that together. So I found that very interesting.
So it sounds like you both have taken these experiences and kind of learned from them and were able to leverage them into conference presentations. One thing I wanted to quickly touch base on that you both have mentioned is this idea of imposter syndrome, which a lot of us all go through at some point. How did you guys manage that imposter syndrome and not let it get in the way of you pursuing this research?
I mean, I some you just mentioned that like you didn't know that research could just be a narrative review. That was actually a big thing for me too, is because um, yeah, I was like, oh, research has to be like super data driven. You have to do all of this stuff, and it has to be like large scale projects. There have to be subjects. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do all of that. And then when I thought about it, and when we had the experience of like that poster and it being more of a narrative review or kind of a literature review, I was like, oh, you could just do that. Um, and getting the award the first time that we did the poster, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. Like that kind of like not fully cured it, but I think that was like a really big boost of confidence of like, oh, okay, like we got this. Like actually, we're and I think too, like I didn't have a ton of experience. Like I've done research, but I didn't really go to conferences. But when in our humanistic psychology class, like um Dr. Buzz took us on a field trip to the Humanistic Psychology Conference because it was in Ann Arbor that year. So it was like a stroke of fate that we went. And honestly, that helped too because it was like a conference of like-minded people, which I think I hadn't really experienced before. And it was people who were like working, at a master's level, but they were working with like the same ideas that we were working with. Um, people who wouldn't necessarily be into research otherwise, not in terms of like, oh, they're not saying anything about the degrees, but in terms of like they're not like they don't have to do research, but they're just doing it for love of the game. And I was like, oh, okay, like I want to do that too. Like because the stuff they were looking at was really interesting. And it was a lot more, like if you think about like humanistic, it was a lot more case studies and lit reviews and like phenomenological things. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is why I like this orientation because you can do that kind of thing. So I think that was really helpful too.
Yeah. I mean, Suba said it beautifully. I agree with her. Research doesn't have to be some huge quantitative study where you're gathering participants. It can be a narrative review, or it can be taking different theoretical lenses and examining one topic from different lenses. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective that you both have shared in that research doesn't have to be this big complex thing. It can be something small, narrow, and focused, and that it doesn't have to be super complicated, but something that you're passionate about and interested in. You guys have already kind of mentioned it, but what was it like winning the Best Poster Award at the Rocky Mountain Psychological Association Conference in 2024? And what did that recognition mean to the both of you?
I don't know. Do you want to go first?
Um, it helped with the imposter syndrome. So I just I'd be like, oh, okay. Didn't even know there was an award being offered for it. So that came as a surprise. And yeah, it just helped with the confidence of being like, okay, research is not that scary. It can be something simple or it can be something complex.
Yeah, same. I mean, for us to like, for it to have been like our first time collaborating and to get such a great response, yeah, it was really, yeah, it was very affirming. And it was, yeah, not even just as a, like, oh, like this research thing, even just like, oh, we're psychologists, or we're on our way to becoming psychologists. And that's, especially when you're in the beginning of the program, you're like, you can't really see that far ahead. You're like, I don't know that I could ever be on a level with those people. And then before you know it, you're there. And so it's like helpful to have those like experiences of building up that confidence.
Yeah, that's amazing. And of course, congratulations to the both of you for winning an award. It really shows the level of work that you guys did for this poster. Final question. What advice would you give to MSP students who are interested in research but are not sure where to begin?
I mean, again, everyone has heard this a million times, but like you probably already have the building blocks for something. You don't have to go too far out. You don't have to like create a research project from scratch. Like just go with, whether like Isam said, like part of your dissertation or a paper that you did. Like our social, I don't know if they're changing social psych because we didn't have Dr. Franks, but when we did social psych, it was like a big group paper where you kind of design a social psych experiment or like study. And my group and I, like, we got quite a number of posters and a talk out of that, like at multiple different conferences. And so that was really cool. And I will say this too, actually, talks, like if there are some conferences that will let you just do like a talk or a symposium,
Mhm.
which in some ways is even easier than a poster. Um, because especially like from feedback that I've gotten, it seems like at MSP, like we do a lot more presentations in class than like a doctoral program usually does. And so, as MSP students, we have a lot of experience giving presentations like that. And I think it's really valuable. Like, if that's something that you're comfortable with, like think of that as an option too. Like it doesn't have to be a paper, it doesn't have to be a poster. It can just be you showing up with like a PowerPoint and kind of spitballing. Like that's also an option. Again, because that too, we applied to a conference that didn't have posters. So we were like, we'll do a talk or a symposium. And then we were like freaking out the entire time. And then like once we were up there, we were like, oh wait, we know what we're talking about. And we had such a good time, like with the audience who all had like their own input as well. So it was like a different kind of collaboration too, because you meet people who are like, oh, they came to this talk because they actually want to learn about this thing. And then, yeah. And I also say, yeah, I don't know how applicable this is. I did go, so one of my practicums was funded by a HRSA grant, so we had to do research. And so we did go to a conference with our practicum site and we talked about the work that we did there. I don't know that this would be an option everywhere, but I think that's something that's worth it. Like if you feel like, um, that your site supervisor would be amenable to that, like maybe bringing it up with them, like maybe they won't be able to fund it, but just thinking about like, can we do research here? Can I talk about like maybe let's say like the site you're at has a really cool policy or like a really cool practice, or you want to do a case study, like something like that. Think about like collaborating with some people from your practicum site. That's also an avenue.
Thank you, Isa.
Well, I think Siba covered it all. But like she said, and actually, in our quantitative class with Dr. Franks, we did do a class research, a quantitative research project, and it got published and went to several conferences. So, or actually, it's being in the process of being published. We had to do some feedback, incorporate that. But yeah, and it went to several conferences. So I guess finding a professor uh, in the faculty that you approach them with an idea, pitch the idea, gather a couple students, and most likely the professors are like, okay, let's get this, and they let you take the lead, and always support from the librarians. Great support, easily accessible, and yeah, that's how it's been going for me.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives on research and how you got started with it. Um, some people typically have this idea that you need to start research in a very specific way, and I think it's always awesome when we're able to highlight different stories and perspectives on how people got started with research. And I'm hoping that your stories can inspire other MSP students to get involved in research and kind of get the ball rolling. So I appreciate you both spending some time with me. Thank you.